Thank you all very much for joining. It's an exciting day. It's a little bit clearer than I think the day we went to launch a year ago, but I'm really happy to share this special anniversary for bluShift, and importantly have many guest stars on with us today to reflect about that time. It was well, I was pulling out of Tim McCabe's hotel. And in my truck, my old beaten up truck, and it was minus 14 degrees Fahrenheit. I think it was warmed up pretty quickly to minus 12 shortly. So, and it was barely good conditions that time, barely good conditions in terms of it was a little bit cloudy. And just 2 weeks ago, we had to cancel our flight because of too many clouds in the sky. And we had to have at least 50% clear skies to launch. So it was such an exciting experience. You know, I think we couldn't have created a better drama, although I think it was really taxing all of us. We had in our second try, 2 weeks later, we had over 100 cars pull up, including actually, and the media was on top of that, who was parked next to us. So parked halfway down the runway was the general public, and then we were about a third of the way up the runway from the launch site at the southern end of the northern end of the runway. And bitterly cold, and I was amazed. We had cars there from New York, New Jersey. This is when COVID was a new thing. It wasn't the normal, right? And people were coming from far away to watch this way up to northern reaches of Maine, where Tim lives. So for me, I know some of these folks on here. You guys have probably seen actual rocket launches. This was my very first one. Now, I'm going to steal a little bit of thunder from Luke, because Luke said it best, and I can't actually repeat it. But on the moment of launch, I think we all felt the same way that Luke expressed it on video on YouTube. He's turning red.
The shot heard round the world.
Yeah. But it was an amazing. It was an amazing sight, and just to hear the rocket take off, and after so many attempts, it was like we had 3 tries. We had 3 tries that morning. And we were supposed to launch in the morning. We had to scrub it due to challenges. Oh, the main flow valve, the main oxidizer valve didn't go on. Actually, I'm just going to switch over to Luke for a second. Luke, can you just for a minute just say what happened there? Just the very early moments when we tried our initial attempt at launch that morning.
Yeah, you mean when the main valve didn't open that particular attempt? Yeah, that was, everything seemed to be going well, and the igniter goes on, which sort of obviously starts the ignition and gets things kind of warmed up. But then when the main valve doesn't go on, that kept going, and then you just sort of get kind of just lazy flames out of the bottom of the rocket. So we had to shut that off really quickly before it damaged the vehicle, and we have like liquid CO2 that we're able to pump into the combustion chamber to cool things back off. And so we had to do that real quick. So Brooke, who was at the controls, had to do some quick thinking and figured out the main valve wasn't doing what it was supposed to. And yeah, we were very happy that our fire extinguishing systems worked.
Yeah, so it's a slightly charcoal bottom end of Stardust. And Pedro, you were helping along with a couple other folks. I think Ashish was there, Dr. Ashish from the University of Southern Maine, and other folks, Michael Osteramecki. But Pedro, you were there. You were helping set up barriers so people wouldn't accidentally run over with a snowmobile. Maybe you could talk a little bit about what happened that morning for you.
Hi, Sasha. Good to be here. Thanks for inviting me. It was really remarkable to see the community's response. And as you said, we had folks there from all over the states. We had more than 100 cars, and it was interesting that when we had to recycle, as you just mentioned, folks would leave and go get food and do some things around town, and then they would come right back. And so I thought that was very interesting given the times. As you said, COVID was brand new to us, and there were a lot of folks who just really didn't understand what the virus was about or how it could harm us. And so it was a remarkable experience. One of my favorite memories of it is the night before I drove out to the launch structure, and Brooke was out there. And as I'm driving down the runway, I look over to my right and I see this beautiful moonrise that just came up and just lit up the entire runway. It was just really gorgeous and a tremendous moment. So it was really meaningful to me.
Yeah, by the way, Pedro, I'm forgetting to introduce your people. I'm going to quickly do this because Luke is our senior mechanical engineer. He's been with us since nearly the beginning, and has been, the core of the design for Stardust and the rockets we're going ahead with. Pedro Vasquez is our bluShift brand ambassador. Tim McCabe is of Loring Industries and also owner of the hotel where we stayed many a times. We lucked out because the snow was really crappy, and the hotel wasn't completely packed with people snowmobiling at that time of the year, which was a good thing, bad thing for you. Tim, I'm going to let you kind of talk about it.
I know, but you guys kind of filled that void at least for let's say a month.
That's true.
And what a crew! Your crew, everyone was just so nice. Sometimes in the hotel business, you run into people that are cranky and all of that. You guys couldn't be further from the truth. So you're right, being up on the runway, it was cold, and it was the first time one of my brothers came to visit me. So we were up there trying to help volunteer and, give us jobs, whatever you want us to do. Yep. And I came up with a proposal, and I think Seth can verify this, that I started working out my thumbs to throw the switch in case your man with the switch, panicked or passed out or whatever. I would be the backup. And I was ready. I worked out for days and days. And actually, to this day, my wife wants me to open a can of beans. I just use my thumb. No, I'm just kidding. So it was a wonderful experience. My brother and I still talk about it. And, your crew were nothing but the best. So professional. And when I did ask that question, I only asked it twice. Is this really rocket science? And the answer was, yeah, it is. Yeah.
It was, yeah.
And Pedro, I don't know if you remember this, but me and my brother and Sandy went back to the hotel. We were freezing. And so we came back, and you were like this, waving us on. And I said, "They going?" He said, "They're going, they're going." Oh, it was so exciting. It was so exciting.
Yeah, just a reminder, this is at the former Loring Air Force Base, northern Limestone, Maine, decommissioned. And, this incredible place, like it's just, from the Cold War era, so many big, aerospace buildings just sort of ready for business. And we were so fortunate that we were able to make full utilization of this location, Tim being one of the fixtures of the Loring Commerce location. So I'm sorry, Pedro, I cut you off. I apologize.
No worries, Sasha. I just wanted to express my gratitude to Tim and his crew for their hospitality. It was just phenomenal. I mean, I came in, in the middle of the night, really, I think it was like 3 a.m. They had a bottle of water set out for me. They had a nice little note set out for me. And then they delivered, if my memory serves me, hot coffee, and there were some pastries that were delivered to us as we were preparing to do our thing. So it's great to see you, Tim, and thank you for everything.
You're welcome. And don't forget, I baked the pastries, okay? I'm just saying. No, I didn't.
So months prior to this, so we wrapped up in February, we wrapped up a grant from NASA to February of 20, that would have to be, geez, I'm going to get my years all screwed up here. 2020, right? Don't count me out here. Make sure I got this right. It was 2020 when we finished the NASA grant. Yeah,
wasn't it 2019? I think it was 2019.
I thought it was 2019 was when we.
2019 is when we got it.
When we started it, yeah. And 2020 is when we wrapped it up.
Yeah, it could have been February or something like that, right?
Yeah, and we'd honed in the engine. It was ready for flight. We heard from potential investors. Show us you can fly something. Show this can be done. Get a few customers. One of them, which we have on board right now, Andrew with us, Andrew from Falmouth High School, and launch it, even though it's a mile up. Recover the payload, give it back to the customers, and show you can do it. Show there's so many rocket companies developing engines, but almost nobody has actually launched anything. So that's what we did. And the plans, of course, were to do that launch in October, and then November, and then December, and then January, and then middle of January, and then, the very last, and we had to scrub it due to weather, and the very last day of January. But back, I think, Andrew, now, we first talked to you guys, maybe in June or July of 2020?
It was,
When was it?
It was actually early October.
Oh, it was that fast? So you guys scrambled really quickly.
It was quick. It was actually kind of a confluence, like just sort of a lucky confluence of opportunities, to be honest. We have another space grant is for a CubeSat that will fly, that's being built mostly by the UMO up in
Maine,
Orono, in partnership with USM. And then as part of that, we were one of 3 schools that are going to fly on that. And then USM started doing a series of workshops, and we had just started with that. But we had been working hard for pretty much a year, the whole remotely, pretty much through COVID. Once we found out we were flying, working with the UMO people. And I think you had reached out to the people up at UMO, and Joseph Patton, who is the mission coordinator for the team, just reached out to us and said, "There's an opportunity to fly if you can take it."
You guys jumped.
We're like, "Gee, I don't know. I had to think about that one." And actually, we did. We ran it by the team, and they were like, "Yeah, we think we can do this. 2 weeks, no problem. What are we going to do?" So we had
you did it.
Exactly. We had to come up with something, and we had just gotten exposed to the X in a box chips,
which is now Max IQ. Yeah.
With the Mac, yeah. Now they're Max IQ.
Yeah.
So that, well, we could probably put something together. And so we did, and I'm really glad you didn't fly until January, because I don't.
It worked out.
Well, yeah, it worked out much better, because it's challenging to take a new technology and figure out how to do it. And our whole philosophy is the students do it. And we had a team of 4 kids, and they, anywhere from 10th grade to 12th grade.
Yep.
At the time, sort of working and having to figure out the Max IQ, having to figure out what's going to happen, how to shake it, how do you fit it together.
Amazing.
And so what they got, there are 4 college essays, 4 college application essays that came out of this. It was an amazing chance for them to be scientists.
Yeah.
That does not come along often.
Yeah.
So the whole thing was just sort of wild.
Yeah, and that was just to remind folks that this is the precursor of what became later our first launch contract with Max IQ. Yeah. To launch student. This wasn't our original target customer base, but we're really happy to have them on board. And so they're allowing kids to across the world, not just not by just Maine, but this is a bluShift branded version, but across the world, to do space science and launch with us on an ongoing basis. And so, right now, I think there's over 30 schools signed up from across the world right now to launch with us this year. And they will be launching up to 60 a year, and hopefully Falmouth High School once again. But we're also working with Jonesport High School. But there's folks from all over the world and all over the United States that are going to be launching from us, doing science projects. It's really, really cool. And what's been amazing about the Falmouth High School is it was just the go-gettedness and the kids just jumping into it, getting their hands dirty. And this is the whole uncomfortable time of, COVID. It was just really amazing to see how much, what they pulled off.
All right, guys, I'm going to do my thing and jump in real quick, just to keep things moving. But real quick, we just go around and say, like, at that moment of liftoff, you haven't heard the engine yet, but you see that it's working. What is that moment like? Luke, don't answer this one, actually. No, I'm kidding.
We'll start with Pedro.
Thanks, guys. It was really a fulfilling moment. I am part of the generation that saw the entire space shuttle program. I was a 10-year-old kid sitting across from the Banana River, watching that thing jump off the planet. And, I can tell you that I was never the same again. The space bug bit me and it stuck. And to see this achievement in Maine in the middle of the winter by such a talented and dedicated team. I had goosebumps from head to toe, maybe from the cold, but also because of what it meant to me, or what I was witnessing. And so, thank you for sharing that with me.
Andrew, maybe you could describe you guys. You were dialed in virtually, I think, by video, and you probably experienced it like many people did.
Yeah, we were all just watching. It was actually sort of this double layer. We were all sort of watching it on YouTube, and then we had a Zoom meeting with everybody there. So we were all there sort of in real YouTube Zoom time and seeing the video where you'd sort of see it but not hear it, and then reception would disappear, and we go, we think it's going. People are cheering.
The audio was coming through, but the video was not. Yeah.
Right. And and then we had gone through the 3 previous launches. So all day we had sort of been sitting there and then going, okay, well, we'll get back in another hour or so. So in each time, the excitement kind of builds, and you go, this time. And so when it finally actually went, it was really just like, you feel this really rush. You're connected. And there was this like, is it really going? Is that happening? It's like, oh wow, we did it. It's there. And then when it came down and everything was all intact, it's like, wow, the whole thing worked. This is like, and they're in there. They have tried to get the every piece to work, and they know how hard it is to make something technical work the way it's supposed to. So when you actually see it do that, in below zero weather and with all the challenges, they got that. Yeah. And so it's just like, it's a rush you don't get to experience very often.
I think it was just a few weeks before the Russians had poked fun at SpaceX and Boca Chica and others that they can't launch in cold conditions. And then we go ahead and launch. Well, actually, yeah, we can. We still can in the United States. We still got it. Doesn't have to be really warm. Tim, maybe you could talk about when the moment it launched, what it was like for you.
Well, I'll tell you, hanging out with you and your crew for a couple of weeks, everyone was waiting. Everyone was anticipating. You could see everyone's excitement and nervousness. Maybe we were nervous for you. And then the first couple of times when it didn't go, it was like everyone was like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry for these guys. I mean, they've worked so hard to do this, and you're in the middle of January." And then when it finally went, Pedro, the people screaming and yelling and hooting and hollering that it was up, and it was perfect. It was just such a wonderful feeling for everyone. It was really, really. I want you back. I know you can't, but I want you back.
Thinking about that. We'll keep thinking about that. Luke, your feelings run deep, and there's outside the one particular audio event. Then you could talk about what it was like for you. The accumulation of all the hard work and the tries, and then finally getting to lift off.
Sure. Yeah. Well, it's definitely a visceral feeling. When things don't work, you literally feel sick, and when they do work, you're like get a serious rush. And I guess for me, you're testing all these systems on the ground one by one, and you test them together as best you can. You do like a hot fire of the whole vehicle, strapped down to the pad, but you really can't test everything in a truly representative environment. You kind of it's got to work the first time for the first flight anyway. So seeing the systems all perform together was insanely gratifying. I had a list of a handful of things that couldn't really test properly. And I sort of I had them in my mind. I'm like, okay, and as it was working, and it was a beautiful flight, it was better than we could have ever hoped for. As it's going, the list of things that could be going wrong that we haven't been able to properly test was getting shorter. We're okay. Scratch the quick disconnect arms off the list. That worked. Okay, ignition
Clear the
worked.
rail.
The rail worked properly. It was able to, we couldn't really run it along the rail at the same velocity it was really going to leave. The tip off the rail was good. We didn't get a gust of wind at the wrong time. Then it was the parachutes. Okay, the parachutes worked great. So it's just this list of failure modes was just getting shorter as it went on. And it just goes from, your mood goes from like extreme anxiety to like joy over the course of like 10 seconds. You're happy because it lifted off, it ignited, but you're still really nervous because there's a lot of other things that could have come wrong. So by the time the main parachute is out and it's just floating down, like I'm checked out at that point. So
very cool.
I had just one little thing, and that was the rocket went up, the chutes came out, and it was coming straight down. I mean, almost you could say it's going to land right on the apparatus, but we had those folks with the snowmobiles there.
Yes,
right?
we did.
What
was the name of the family? The name of the family again?
I'll think of it.
Okay, you should think of it.
Bouchard. Yeah, Bouchard.
Bouchard, okay. Bouchard family,
And they were ready to go. And then, I don't know, one of you guys came out, okay, recovery team. And it was great. It was great.
Covered by snowmobile. It was awesome. Yeah. For me, it was an incredible experience. That was the first time I'd ever seen any rocket launch beyond the Estes, right? And my own, crazy designs when I was a kid. So for me, just hearing that sound and seeing it actually go up the way you imagine it does was amazing. I remember just prior to launch, Luke, you and Brooke basically were begging me because I had the flight termination system in my hand. You guys were like, Sasha, don't kill it. Don't kill it prematurely. Don't stop it. Because I was like, I had to be ready there. That was sort of the last stop between if it was going sideways, something was going to happen, we need to manually shut that sucker down. Man, was I nervous. I was super nervous. And when it took off and the glorious sound of just like that, I don't know how to explain it. Visceral was the right word. Visceral definitely was the right word. We had so many things, so many challenges. I mean, the cold itself meant our battery shut down. Now we tested this out, but the batteries are shut down in the rocket. We'd figured out actually how to preheat the batteries to prepare them, so that was good. But then the laptops were shutting down. So we'd done things like strapping heating pads to the back, those iron filling, what are those called? Those thermal whatever pads to the bottom of laptops. That still didn't work. So Brooke, who was managing the launch, had to take his computer, which was where we were managing all the launch from, and put it into his Prius. So I'm pretty sure it was one of the first Prius controlled launch sites, mission controls. Just, it's not an advertisement for Toyota, but yeah, then we pegged it. We landed, we couldn't have landed more perfectly and parachuted down. It was right spot on. So it was just an incredible experience. And I think what everybody has to remember is that this whole thing is within the context of we're doing it in Maine. So people say, yeah, you're not gonna be able to do it in Maine. But two, and probably this is really the one, is like we're doing use of bio-derived, carbon neutral, non-toxic rocket fuel. And everybody's like, man, no. And so that was what we were fighting. And from my experience in my renewable energy company, Alti, the solar days, I remember in the late 90s, people thought solar doesn't work. There was just this sort of mythology around solar doesn't work. And now I think, and clearly that's not an issue now. Same thing is happening with rocket fuel. We're finally getting to the point where people, where folks understand that doing things in a non-toxic, more earth-friendly way, even when you're traveling to space, is feasible and hopefully profitable. So I'm just going to add a little twist onto this. So we'd parked the rocket in it was a hot shot. Is it a hot shot hangar? Is that what that's called? With the F-15s were parked.
Yeah, that's right. Correct.
Yeah. So that's where we became the rocket garage. We parked the rocket Stardust along with the launch rail system, all parked right inside that giant hangar. So it's probably the last thing Dad's seen is probably some F-15s. But the night when I finally started heading home, I had to get home because there was yet another snowstorm coming. And I would think I was somewhere around Millinocket, heading south towards Brunswick. And it was just beginning to snow. And I had in the back of the truck, the launch system, the launch trailer. And I had my phone propped up on the dashboard and was driving along. And all of a sudden I see pop up there, Angus King was calling. I'm like, oh, this is a prank call. I was like, no, this is not really Angus King. So I picked it up and I was sure this was gonna be a prank call. And in the most nicest voice and just, like he was my next door neighbor, Angus King was indeed on the other side. This is the senator of Maine, independent senator from Maine, Angus King. And he was, it was a proud moment for the state of Maine because, it says made in Maine on the bottom of the rocket. Was it this way, right? And it was seen, it was on the BBC. We were covered by AP News, space.com. Help me out, Seth, here. It was also, we had folks restreaming our videos in Latin America, in French and in Polish. Daniel Reguera was publishing it down in Latin America from Uruguay. And, it was really kind of putting Maine on the map of aerospace. That Maine is open and ready for the aerospace, the new space industry. And so it was really cool to have him thank what we did and all the hard efforts and be recognized in that moment in time and not get into a car accident while I was driving down slick roads with a rocket trailer raised many tons in the back. So it was very cool. This has been an incredible experience. We made history. We were the first company in the world that we know of that commercially launched a rocket. We had two paying customer payloads, in addition to the academic one from Andrew's high school team on board. We were the first ones to launch using a bio-derived non-toxic fuel. And this year, we plan on being the very first company to do the same thing, but launching commercially all the way to space, somewhere here in Maine, and certainly the United States, all the way to space, demonstrating once again that a more Earth-responsible fuel and a non-toxic one can be used with rockets going forward. So we're very, very excited, and the guys are working so hard at doing this. And I think right now it's being plowed, our test stand is being plowed. So stay tuned for that. I did just want to do some sort of just give a quick update of some of the major milestones the team has now pushed through. First of all, the team has already constructed the full test stand is all constructed, the concrete test stand. We've done cold flow tests of the injection systems for our full-sized Stardust engine, the Marvel. They've loaded the giant fuel grain. We've gone from the fuel grain, that's our fuel core, the non-toxic fuel. Instead of weighing like 14 pounds, it weighs what, Luke? About 600 and something pounds? 600.
Yeah, 600 to 800 pounds, sort of depending on the exact configuration.
Yeah, so that's like a whole new level. You can't just lift this up with your hands like we could before. The logistics is a science unto itself and an engineering effort to boot. Richard Clark from MTI has been helping us out with the financial modeling associated with our business going forward, not only for the suborbital flights, but for the orbital ones. And the team is getting very, very close to, the team has almost finished up all the cabling for all the enclosures that are involved for our test site. This is for the controlling the valves, collecting the data, etc. So we're expecting here within just a few weeks to finally have that much awaited first full-size Marvel engine test. And again, I think this will probably be the largest biofuel powered rocket engine test by a commercial company, I believe, at least certainly with hybrid rockets. I've yet to verify that one. Anyways, meanwhile, we are racing to hit $1 million raised on our WeFunder campaign, our WeFunder crowd equity funding campaign. We're getting very close, right? About $830,000 or $840,000 there. Once we reach the $1 million mark, MTI, that's the Maine Technology Institute, actually matches us with not matches us, but it will give us $100,000 in non-dilutive funding, which is really attractive as a potential investor, other investors on WeFunder, and to help us push us along. So this, once we get beyond the 1 million mark, or the 1 million mark, we'll be focusing all those additional fundraising efforts to fully develop the 2 Stardust Rogue suborbital rockets, and begin the whole environmental permitting process that's required for the launch site that we need to finalize. And if all goes well, by the end of the year, we'll be launching Starless Rogue all the way up to space, making history again. But as a sort of a funny, this is slightly embarrassing, but also really cool and funny at the same time. As a way to generate excitement, some of you might have seen this posted on social media. We've decided to raffle off 5 awesome, you can see here in the background, 5 awesome movie posters. So there's only a very, very, very small handful, probably about 5, maybe 6. One we'll have here at the office. We'll be raffling these off. So we'll be driving. We will draw 5 winners for these movie posters once we hit our 1 million goal. So we just ask that you please help spread the word. One of the hardest aspects of funding a startup is that we're up against the giants who have millions of dollars and billions of dollars to spend on the marketing and development of traditional rockets. And we are a grassroots organization, and we rely upon folks like you, many of our investors who are here today on this webinar, to help spread the word, get the word out there about what we're doing. So later, I think in about a half an hour, we're going to actually do the fun premiere of the Starless Rogue bluShift video at the top of the hour. So it's a little bit of fun on our behalf. But I did want to, I'm going to pass it over to you for a minute, Seth, because I want to see if you could share some of the videos and photos that we're all referencing of what happened the day of launch.
Absolutely, Sasha. Just one moment as I share my screen.
And if we have time afterwards, I'd love to, folks have questions and stuff. If we have time, I also want to open it up just in case folks want to ask any questions. Or if any of the folks from the panel want to have any other thoughts and stuff they want to share with folks who are in this webinar, please feel free. All right.
All right, so this is an oldie but a goodie. This is the Stardust mission profile, which Sasha, you and I worked together to kind of animate here. But basically it was 7 seconds of a full powered burn. And then it actually, it kind of pseudo coasted a little while, kind of like pulling off the gas in an automatic transmission, right? There's this kind of low powered thrust mode where you're burning through any excess fuel. And then about 4 seconds of time in what we would not really call true microgravity. It's kind of free fall, but there's still air resistance. And then this is the part where I'm pretty certain that Luke started chanting, shoot, shoot, shoot. And then Michael chimed in, shoot, shoot, shoot. And before you knew it, like there was a ton of people in the crowd. And you can hear this on Cuppy Jandro's live stream of this whole event. You can hear a whole bunch of people just shouting, shoot, shoot. And then the rocket separates.
And then please deploy the shoot. Please shoot, deploy.
Yeah, exactly.
Not become a alarm dart. Yeah. Yep.
And yeah, so that was a moment of catharsis for like 100 people. That was amazing to be a part of. So then we get into the descent configuration here. We got a drogue chute, making sure everything is properly oriented. And then now this was particularly brilliant. Sasha, how did the team arrive at this element of the design where the engine section touches down first? So now that same parachute, that same cross section of air resistance, now it only has to slow down maybe a third of the weight of the rocket for that last bit of descent, right? That's how did you get to that?
Well, I mean, that was Luke and team and Brooke who kind of came up with that concept. I should let Luke talk about it. It worked out really well because it means our payload section came down at a very gentle descent.
Yeah, I can't take full credit for that idea. It's our parachute manufacturer has a ton of experience making parachutes for sounding rockets, scientific sounding rockets, and for large drones, for all sorts of uses. Helped come up with that concept where you have the heavy bit of the vehicle hanging lower, and then as soon as it touches down, your fragile payload slows down much more, and then you don't need to oversize the chute so that it can take the full weight of the entire vehicle. So the Marvel portion, which is the bit with the fins, that's just the engine, which is quite rugged and could handle a higher touchdown velocity. And we had an aluminum crash zone, crush zone on the bottom of the vehicle, so that when it hit the ground, there was a sacrificial foot or so of aluminum structure that was designed to crumple and shock absorb. And that was
in fact
effective.
Sasha, is it on the table behind you, Sasha?
It has been the past. I don't see it now.
Oh man, okay, never mind, sorry. Luke, you were saying, sorry.
Oh, it just it seemed to work great. It touched down fins first, and all the fingers and bits of that aluminum are all splayed out, and it looked like, oh my God, you did a bunch of damage, but that was what we designed it to do, and it absorbed a bunch of the shock. And then the payload area, the nose cone, just settled right down next to it, and it was great because the parachute landed and it just sort of folded itself out across the snow. It looked like you'd arranged it, ready to fold it back up. It was a more picture perfect flight or landing than you normally expect. It's normally a matter of picking it out of a tree somewhere, but we had a nice large open area, so it was all good. And we'd done a lot of analysis over what are the probabilities of it landing in different areas based on what the wind was doing. So that was a big, call it Monte Carlo analysis and dispersion. And so we had an idea of all the different areas it could land and what probability it would land in those different areas. So that was gratifying to see it land where we thought it was most likely to land. So
it was beautiful. It was beautiful and convenient. It was right next to the runway. I couldn't ask for better. Well, thanks, Luke.
Yeah.
All right. Move spotlight. There we go. Okay. So a lot of the work that went into Stardust came in the form of plumbing and wiring. And this is Brooke, our lead test engineer at the time, working on the guts of Stardust. The goal here was to take the test stand motor and basically put it into a more compact form factor. And so you can see steel components here that you probably wouldn't normally see on a rocket of this class, but it was incredibly effective. Now, Sasha, this is the walk-in composites oven and then the layup facility over at Tech Place, right?
Yes, yeah. We were very fortunate that here at Tech Place at Brunswick Landing, they actually early on, before they bought this composite oven, they asked us, what dimension do you need for your future rockets? And this is an expense that most rocket companies have to, if they're going to do composites, and you have to take on yourself. And so we're very fortunate. We have this island in Maine, in Brunswick, that is so welcoming to aerospace and manufacturing, that they have quite extensive facilities in addition to machining, and they have this whole composite layup facility. So we're so fortunate to be here in Maine, so fortunate to be in Brunswick Landing, the MRA's campus. and have access to these facilities at such a reasonable cost and not have to spend hundreds, if not millions of dollars to do all this.
Yeah, I remember speaking to you 1 or 2 days right after the Stardust launch, and you mentioned that this layup facility from Tech Place cut the lifetime operating costs of bluShift Aerospace roughly in half from incorporation to Stardust flight.
Yeah, it's an amazing savings, and
Staggering.
it's something that we would probably not have been able to do by ourselves. Yeah.
Thank you, Tech Place.
Yes.
And of course, we didn't just build a rocket, we also built the launch system. So here are some photos of that. There was a ton of welding to be done, particularly on that joint that the whole launch rail would pivot around. And then something that a lot of folks don't often think about is paint. Painting a rocket is a whole thing, as well as decals. It's a art and science specific to rocketry, right?
Yeah, and here we have, is this Adam? I think it's Adam, right?
Yes, Adam.
Yeah, Adam, who did a great job painting. He works for another company there in Tech Place, but he was willing to help us out on the side, as well as what's the name of Luke? What's the name of the gentleman who helped us? It continues. Russ, right? He helps us out with Russ Crandall with the welding on many occasions when you guys are too busy to. When our own team is too busy to do welding. Also helped us out again from another company based out of Tech Place. So it's been a real wealth of talent and sharing between companies here at the Brunswick Landing. It's been excellent.
Absolutely. And here's Luke doing kind of like an informational photo, not an inspirational photo shoot for like a poster or something.
That was our drogue shoot, I believe, right?
Yep.
Yes.
Those are made by Fruity Shoots, just to give them credit. Credit is due.
And this is the rig of Stardust. So this is just the lower section, the Marvel, the engine. And it's mechanically fastened to the launch rail in preparation for a static fire test. I like saying it looked kind of like C-3PO from the prequels. But those are some amazing tests.
Yeah, they were also live streamed. Yeah, pretty cool.
Yeah. All right, so here's the team up in limestone here.
In front of the Hot Shot hangar. There's Brooke running and walking my way, and Luke there, hello, doing some last minute tweaks and changes and preparations for launch the next day.
Sasha, I remember driving behind you as you were towing this trailer up the highway. And I remember thinking, I grew up around, well, not around, but watching launch pads that moved at maybe 3 miles an hour when there wasn't a rocket on them. And this launch pad was doing about 80.
Or less, whatever the speed limit was, I'm sure.
Yeah, allegedly. But I was thinking, man, this is new space. This is not a crawler that you could outwalk. This is new space, man.
The tower was what, 670 feet, just about?
Yep.
Yeah.
A radio tower that 2 sections were permanent, so 20 feet were permanent, and then you'd place the other 4 or however many sections on top, and it was all guyed in place with spreaders and steel cable. That's some pretty insane high tension just to keep things straight, because when you got a tower that long and it's horizontal while you're loading it and you got to tilt it all up from the bottom, it's like taking a broom, holding it by the end of the handle and trying to bring it up vertical. And so there's a lot of forces. So the trailer itself was a task, and it's
And you guys did a lot of engineering around kind of analyzing what needed to be where and the strains of the cables and the torque that needed to be there and all that stuff, right?
Oh man.
We've got
And we did have a
in the
dog
background,
designer.
sorry.
Somebody agrees, yeah. Oh man. All right. This was an exciting moment. Sasha, tell us about this.
Oh, that is actually literally a photograph of when later I got in my truck to head out to the launch site area, and it is, minus 12 Fahrenheit, which is actually not, it gets a whole lot colder than that up there. And I was complaining about minus 12, minus 14, but it felt cold. It felt very cold.
I remember one time up there, I tried to turn on the car radio and it just said like, I'm sorry, I can't right now.
We had minus 32.
Wow.
Last weekend, yeah.
No, yeah. Good thing we did it last year. It was warmer.
Absolutely, absolutely. But here's the bright side, though. That's a sales pitch for what our rocket can do. That's
true.
That's
All
the
temps.
temperatures that we can launch in.
Yeah.
Because the rocket was totally. I mean, but once we dealt with the valve,
Yeah.
which is very easy to deal with for down the road, that rocket was perfectly happy at those temperatures. Okay, this is one of those absolutely stunning sunsets up there, and the team working on integration with the rocket and the tower. And Luke, I noticed you're wearing a climbing harness in this image. Can you tell us a little about that?
Oh, sure. I mean, got to be tied in climbing around on this thing. We'd have to go to the top of the tower routinely there's a weather station up there and all sorts of bits and pieces. And so, yeah, just need to be safe. And I do sort of rock climbing and stuff like that as a hobby. And so probably, an untypical climbing harness, but I had all the equipment to keep myself safe. So I was always clipped in and was the guy going up and down the tower, which was always quite chilly to be 60, 70 feet up in the air in the middle of a runway at night.
How you did it, man. How you did it.
Well, thank you for doing it. Thanks for getting that launch rail camera so perfectly situated, as we're about to see in a couple of minutes here.
Well, that's right. I forgot there were cameras up there too. Yeah.
Yeah. And thank you for everything else too. But the cameras, near and dear to my heart. Oh, so this is a beautiful video of after the first launch attempt. We had to scrub because there just was not good weather. And so here we are driving the rocket back in the dark. We came back
off the runway. Yeah.
Yep.
This is on the runway. Yeah.
Not on the road, just on the runway. Yes.
Yeah, on the runway. Yep.
That was interesting driving on that runway because your speedometer said 40, 45, and you look out and nothing's changing because the scale is so vast.
Yeah. It's amazing to think that you're driving where B-52s regularly took off and landed from. It's amazing.
And this is where the F-15 would park.
The hot shots, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's also where we were parked.
And here is the moment. This is the best video we have of the Stardust flight.
Courtesy of Mac Factory. Almost no trail, it's amazing.
Well, that time dialing in the fuel oxidizer ratios really paid off.
Yep.
Very clean.
Here goes that crumple zone.
Yep. There.
Boom.
There you go. And you can see how much it slows down.
And we were going to launch again. We were fully planning to do a Stardust 2.0 launch at the end of the summer. 6 months later, we decided to forego those efforts to focus all of our efforts on Starless Rogue. But we believe that save maybe a little bit of superficial damage to the skin, it was ready to launch again. There wasn't much to change out. The crumple zone just had to be replaced, and a little bit of touch up, and we were ready to launch again quickly. So it was really, and I'm confident we could have done it again. So, and we will do it again here in several months from now, if all goes well. You know, I did want to also put a shout out to our organic antenna tracker.
Yes.
An intern, Ben Lemieux, who's been through this a couple of times, been an intern with us from the University of Maine several times. He was on the back of my pickup truck with an array of antennas for data and for video acquisition during the flight. And he was able to maintain one of the few videos that I'm not sure if this one's showing, but one of the few videos that we were able to have while in flight before we were able to recover the rocket and download the videos feeds.
Yeah, that was a tough job. And Ben was so helpful that whole time. Just kind of odd jobs guy running around, whatever needed doing, he did it. It was just amazing. So we are getting mighty close to the launch, to the premiere of the official trailer of Starless Rogue. So we've got a link here, which I'm going to pop into the chat. And so this is a YouTube link. So in a couple minutes, we're going to wrap up this webinar. We're all going to go over to YouTube to watch the full-length official trailer of Starless Rogue. Have fun reading the video description if you're so inclined. That was a lot of fun to write. And we'll still be around in the chat, so we can still have, you know, our witty banter. But this, well, I'm really excited for this, Sasha. I think Knack Factory did some absolutely amazing work here.
Yeah, stay tuned just a few minutes from now. I just want to thank once again Pedro Vasquez, our bluShift brand ambassador, Andrew Nya from the science teacher from Falmouth High School, Tim McCabe from the famous Loring Industries, Cuppy, who couldn't join us right today, but she is the Secretary of Loring Air Force Museum and a United States Air Force veteran. And of course, our very own Luke Sandin, the Senior Mechanical Engineer here at bluShift. Thank you all for commenting and taking the time to share this experience with everybody in the public. We're hoping to do this again, perhaps in a little warmer conditions this time around. We'll see what we can do. So stay tuned for this premiere. Thank you all very much.